Hello everyone, welcome back to the Budget Sportsman, and thank you so much for joining me on today's video. With our opening day of archery season just a few weeks away here in Pennsylvania, I have been spending a lot more time hanging out in my tethered Phantom tree saddle. I've been trying to get my entire system dialed in, and particularly one of the things I've been working on is how I'm going to film my hunts. I love filming my hunts for my own memories, but also for you folks on YouTube, and so I wanted to figure out exactly where I need to position the camera, how I need to move, and how I can film. One thing that I want to mention here is some of these shots may look a little tricky or like there's a lot of movement involved, but the thing that I want to point out to you is that I can shoot and film 360 degrees around the tree. Sure, some of the shots may not be ideal, there may be a little bit more movement than would be ideal, but the thing to remember is in the past I've been hunting out of a hang-on where there was simply no way for me to actually shoot and film 360 degrees around the tree. I had a situation 2 years ago where a buck came in behind me and I didn't get a shot, but if I would have, it would have been off camera. There was simply no way that I could get the camera where it needed to go. So keep that in mind as you watch. So let's get into what my filming setup actually is. Right now I am running the 4th Arrow stiff arm with the 2.0 base. I would love to have the new 3.0 base and the Talon system and all of that, but that's not in the budget right now. But hopefully someday it is a lot lighter and a lot smaller. I'm running the stiff arm, and I'm a big fan of this over their new, I think it's the Talon arm or the Saddle Hunter's arm, just because there's a little bit more reach for not that much more weight. I'm running the 4th Arrow fluid head with a Canon 80D on top, and you could use your camera of choice, and then a Rode Video Micro. The lens is a Canon 18 to 135. Now, before I get into showing you how I plan to make all my shots and film, I want to point out one other thing, and that is that I have a second angle camera up here. So in past years, what I've done is I put a GoPro on the tree behind me as I'm sitting in a tree stand. Well, that would work fine in this situation, pointed at my face. It would work really great until I end up having to move around the tree and suddenly my camera's pointed over here and I'm out of frame. So what I've done is I've taken a selfie stick and over the center buckle and a little bit of spare hardware that I found down in the shop, and I have made basically a pole that comes out from the tree and holds my GoPro out here. And as you'll be able to see throughout this video, I'll insert some clips, but you're actually able to see what I'm doing with the camera, you're able to see what I'm doing with the bow, you're able to see me as I move around the tree pretty much 360 degrees. You just might lose me a little bit behind the tree. So let's go ahead now and start talking about how I would make these shots and how I would position the camera to get it all on film. So let's start with our strong side shot, and let's lay down a little bit of information here first. As I'm sitting here, what we're going to do is we're going to pretend this is a clock face with 12 straight ahead of me. The camera is at 3, behind me is 6, and over here is 9. Now the shot that we would call the strong side shot is to my left as a right-handed archer. I've got my bow over here. Let me just pick it up and show you. That would be anything over on this side. All you can see I don't have to move my body. All I have to do is pick up my bow, maybe just pivot a little bit around, and I can make a strong side shot. Now, in order to do this and get it on film, all I have to do is grab this camera arm. It's right here, and I should have mentioned this before. If I'm kneeling into the tree, I like the base, about a hand width above my knee. That puts the camera at a place where if I'm leaning like this, it's very easy to pass through. If I'm down, I'm not going to be bumping the camera arm into my knees or anything like that, and so that's the position where I have the arm. Now, to make this strong side shot, all I have to do is grab that camera arm, pull it right between me and the bridge. It's out of the way. I can flip out my screen on my Canon 80D. I can see exactly what I need to see, draw, and make the shot. Now, with that said, this carries around for a good bit of the tree where I keep the camera between me and the tree. Let's work our way around to 12. As you can see, this would work from down here. We're talking right now from about, down here, if this is 6 o'clock behind me, we're talking about 7 o'clock right there, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, still working fine. I'm rotating around the tree. I'm up here at about 10. I'm gonna bring my knee into the tree a little bit here, about 11. I'm actually all the way now right up to 12 o'clock. I could draw and shoot. This is one of the reasons why I like the stiff arm over that shorter Talon arm, because it wraps around the tree really, really well. On a tree this size and the way I have it positioned, I can actually film almost all the way back over to where you are at 3 o'clock, not quite. The problem is I can't really shoot that way because now when I turn it that far, the handle of my tripod head is sticking out and it's in the way. That becomes a problem. I'll address that in just a moment. But for now, let me just say that I can get up here easily to 12 o'clock, no problem at all, and probably more actually like 1 or 1:30 using that method. So now we saw we can go from 7 around to 1 or 1:30. Let's move the other direction. Again, strong side shot, no problem here. But then we get into the drop shot, which is down here more around that 6 o'clock position. Again, I'm keeping that camera arm right between me and the tree. Now it keeps that camera in my right hand, right where I need it. I'm down here looking at that 6 o'clock position. I got a good view of my camera. I can draw and I can shoot. Absolutely no problem. Again, I can bring that all around like this, and I've got a lot of range of motion here. The truth of the matter is, I can actually bring that all the way around to 3 o'clock, right where you are. I wrap myself around the tree, I can draw and I can shoot. Now, of course, for me to spin around like this would take some motion in the tree, right? But this is my weak side. This is the side that, that's a worst case scenario, deer coming down that side. I'm gonna set up and plan, if I think I know where deer are gonna be moving, for them to be on the other side of the tree. So again, keeping that camera between me and the tree, basically I can go from here at 3 o'clock, there's 6 o'clock, there's 9 o'clock, there's noon, and so the only thing that I'm missing so far is between noon and 3 basically. And the way I would film that is to bring the camera on the other side of the tree. And right now I can easily film noon to 3 on this side of the tree. Now, in order to make that shot, obviously I can't do it from here, but I can swing myself around the tree just like this. I'm filming, I can see my screen, and I can actually draw and shoot over to 3 o'clock. There's probably 2 o'clock. Again, I'm gonna just kind of be on this side of the tree with the camera, the opposite side of the tree with my bow. I can film, I can see, I can shoot, and that follows all the way around. I could actually do that all the way up to something like 12 o'clock. So I've covered 360 degrees around the tree. Now let me mention a little bit more about that weak side shot over where you guys are at that 3 o'clock position. There's a couple of other ways that people like to shoot that shot besides swinging all the way around like I did, all right? This is my favorite way because it's the easiest to film, and to me, it's the easiest to position myself. But there's a couple of other ways you could shoot it, but I'm gonna show you why I don't like it. Number one is you can take your bow over the bridge, pivot your hips, and make the shot. Now for me, this just feels uncomfortable. But the bigger issue with filming is now my camera is on the other side here. And now I'm crossing my arms trying to position it, and it's just very awkward to me. Would it work? Probably. It's just not ideal in my mind. The other way that you could do this, and you see people do this from time to time, is by taking their arm under the bridge, standing up and turning all the way around. Would this work? Sure, but again, my camera's back here and I'm having to cross my arms. Now, to be fair, you could bring this all the way out like this, and you could film over here and make the shot. But you have a huge risk here if you're not careful. You know, if that shot's down a little bit, you got a huge risk of hitting your cams or your limbs off of that camera arm. To me, it's just simply not worth it. So again, for me, if I'm gonna make that weak side shot, it's gonna be bringing that camera between me and the tree, pivoting my body all the way around, and then I can go ahead and make my shot. There's one more thing I should mention about my second camera angle placement, and it's about the side of the tree. For me, I've chosen to put it on this weak side facing back. And the reason is, first of all, because I hang my bow on this side of the tree where I can easily grab it with my bow hand, and they're hanging from the same strap. But the other reason is if I'm anticipating deer movement on my strong side over here, there's a good chance that this second camera angle could actually pick up those deer on camera, and I could have it as a second backup option. All right, I hope all that information was clear and helpful. Now let's jump over and start talking about how I would set up and film for two guys in a tree, one who's the shooter and one who's the cameraman.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with us today. I'm here in the tree with Nate Fry from the Budget Sportsman. We are getting two guys in one tree at a two saddles shooter and filmer setup today. We've been working through some bumps in the road. It's been going all right so far. The way we have it set up right now is not exactly how it would be set up in the tree. We're a little bit more, if this was 6 o'clock, the 3 and 9, we'd actually be closer to more like 7 and 4 to kind of get here. But for the sake of the camera, and we'll go through the shot angles that we're practicing when we're actually here. But for the sake of us being on the tree so you can see us right now, that's where we are. What we want to go through today is what we've discovered so far. Last year we filmed with a hang-on and a guy in the saddle, me being the saddle, Nate in the hang-on. Now that we're in the saddle, we're trying to figure out where the camera should be positioned, where our platforms are for the shooter and for the camera guy, and all those things. Let's talk about, so we're using the tethered Phantom saddles and the tethered Predator platform. Doesn't matter what you're using, but in terms of the shooting and everything, nothing has changed depending on the saddle or anything. It's all exactly the same. So we're going to assume our 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock kind of positions here and kind of get to whether we're leaning or standing, leaning or sitting, where we would actually be. Of course, our strong side is off here to my left. I'm a right-handed shot, which is great because we put Nate's camera base and arm on that side of the tree. So that allows the cameraman to be on the opposite side of the tree, which keeps him totally out of my way as the shooter, but also allows him to have all the access he wants. I'm gonna come up here. Nate, you can see how much he comes around the tree here. He can really swing in. Now, obviously, he's not gonna come through here if I need to make that shot, but it really allows this strong side shot to occur. It also allows for the weak side shot to occur. Because he's over here, he doesn't have to maneuver with me. If I'm gonna shoot here at my 3 o'clock, I like to shoot over the bridge, so I will come over the bridge, and Nate has that easily as the cameraman on the opposite side of the tree. I think the one thing that really helps with this is by putting the cameraman higher.
Yeah.
I think so, a little bit, putting it up a little bit higher, because it keeps the camera base then approximately both of our waistlines, which allows for really easy movement. I think if Nate was lower, he'd be more close to my kneecaps. This also makes it really nice, that height. For the interview shots, we can either do it on this side of the tree or even more comfortably, because he's already over there, coming over and doing it on this side of the tree. I can lean down into it. It doesn't have to be looking up my nostril or looking down because it's too high. It's nice and right here. It's comfortable for him to use. It's comfortable for me to use. And then we can sit here and do whatever. Also, as a complete side note that I literally just thought of, it's nice that we're kind of at 4 and 7 instead of 3 and 9. Because we can communicate with each other, but also we can watch each other's backs a little bit. It's nice being out of the saddle here, because when we were out of a tree stand in the saddle, Nate's back was to me, and we were both facing the same direction. So that meant I had to turn around, or he had to constantly be turning around. Here we can kind of watch each other's six, if you will, and we can keep that access available and open. In terms of shooting 360 degrees, we tried earlier, we pretty much got 340.
Yep.
Right. What was probably the trickiest shot though for the camera guy in terms of the angle?
There really wasn't much. I think the trickiest angle is probably somewhere over, for me, it'd be about my like 10 o'clock. If we're talking about 6 o'clock here, then it'd be about over around 7 or 8 o'clock. And the tricky part about it is knowing which side of the tree to be on. Whether I need to be on this side, which works good here, but at some point as we move around that direction, I've got to be actually switching over to the opposite side of the tree. And so there's a break there where you have to try to figure out which side of the tree that you need to be on.
And of course, obviously you're going to plan for all of your strong side shot. That's where you expect your movement to be. But last year, my buckshot on opening day was on the weak side. Did you have any weak side kills last year, or were they all strong side stuff?
Now,
granted, you were in a tree stand.
I was in a tree stand last year, and I had a weak side shot out of a tree stand.
Okay,
yeah.
So I mean, it's the same deal. But yeah, we practiced that a lot earlier, at least thought about it a lot earlier, that although this is the least anticipated shot here, you know, approximately my 5 o'clock, you know, this is obviously the worst shot, like right up in here, like 2, 3 o'clock in terms of a right-handed archer. That's by far the worst. And the other thing is too, with me actually being at 4 o'clock here, you know, or excuse me, 7 o'clock, if this is 6, I'm really blocking out Nate. And if I go to pivot and turn to shoot that way, I'm definitely blocking him out. So
that's where I need to come around the other side.
Yeah, he's really going to have to come on that side of the tree. And that's going to have to be a game time decision. You know, you can plan and prep for it as much as you would like, but that's going to have to be a game time decision in the moment when you're actually going to go take that shot at that deer, because I don't think we can actually say, oh yeah, that's going to definitely happen and it's just going to work. We're going to have to as it's not, and then again, communication, because we're facing each other, I think is be really slick.
Yeah, you know, I think any hunting situation is fluid though. You're always constantly figuring out, and you just got to react with what's thrown at you. And when two guys in the tree, that's kind of compounded. But I think, like you said, being able to see each other is going to be really nice. We can communicate, whisper, work with each other with what's going on.
Does anything change? I mean, this is another thing too, like nothing really changes for self-filming here.
No, if I was self-filming, I'd actually be set up exactly the same way, except for this second camera angle. What I would do is I'd put that on my opposite side and have my bow hanging here. But because normally we would be in this position a little bit closer together, we're going to put the camera here where we can see both of us on this side of the tree. But as far as where this camera goes, it's exactly the same for me for just self-filming. And I can make all the shots pretty much 360 with the camera in this position on the right hand side of the tree.
If anything, a touch higher.
Yeah, if anything, I would have my base maybe just 2 inches higher, 1.5 inches, 2 inches higher. But it's pretty close to where I like it.
And one thing, and we'll do it real quick here, we'll start with me doing the worst shot possible, and then I'll just kind of pivot around the tree, change over to where I would shoot, and we'll have Nate follow me around.
Let's go from camera and see if we can go all the way around back to camera. See how close we get.
Okay.
As far as shot angles.
Okay.
Whether you use this on video or not, I don't care. But
yeah.
I just want to see, because we keep saying we're not getting 360, but I feel like we should be able to.
Yeah. So let me start off here at 4 o'clock. All right. Now we have to know.
Yeah.
Now we have to know actually how far are we getting here.
So we're going to start at the camera.
Yep.
And we're going to try to go all the way around back to the camera with all of our shots.
So I'm going to have to shift. I'm an over the bridge guy. I don't mind that. I got real long arms, a big dude, 6'4", so I don't mind the over the bridge shot. And quite frankly, this coming all the way out here for us, it might work, but I don't like fighting with the elbow because I have long arms. I don't like fighting with the elbow into the tree. So I'm going to start with the over the bridge shot, which means I'm going to have to transfer going the other way. So it's going to look a little clunky, but yeah, we'll see what we got here. So right at the camera, that's, you know, I'll just go off of my numbers. That's 3 o'clock there. So 3 o'clock.
And for me, that's easy to film. Camera's between me and the tree. It's super easy, no obstruction.
Right, and I can even come back in here a little bit, but that we're gonna start at 3, but I can cover up to almost noon, definitely 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Here, I'm already reached my limit, so I'm gonna have to turn around, which is fine. Pivot against the tree. Now I've got 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
And at this point is about where I need to transition to the other side of the tree.
My 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, knee against the tree, 9 o'clock, 10, 11, here's my noon. I'm gonna shift my feet a little bit, put my knee higher on the tree, back to 1, back to 2. I can almost, almost get back to 3, but at this point, and it makes sense, we just have a little bit of camera clearance over here on this side, but I mean, I'm getting to 2:30 at this point here.
And if you come back around the way you were shooting before, when you cross your bridge, you probably are gonna actually cover, I mean, you're back here to that area where we started getting really awkward. Right. Where you're shooting past my camera arm, and now we've covered it from the opposite side.
Right, and this is one thing that we experienced last year firsthand. And granted, Nate was in a tree stand, but that deer came off from my 1 o'clock. And I knew that it had to come down this way. So long before I pulled up my binos, I was already positioned this way with my hips. You can see it in the footage. Binos, I had to pull the bow over. That was a little sketchy because I hit the broadhead on the tree. But I pulled the bow over and I was ready to go long before he even got there. I put my knee up against the tree, came up to him, and he made, it was a nice, really nice, easy 8-yard shot. But something super simple like that, if you can prepare for it, makes it a lot smoother. But I mean, we covered 360 there, you know, with me starting at 1 o'clock instead of starting at 3.
Glad we weren't in that tree.
I think it was a whole tree just fell down. I don't know, if a tree falls in the forest, does anybody hear it? If it doesn't make a sound, I don't know. I butchered that one. How about that?
But if we were to take that scenario from last year where that deer was coming from your 1 o'clock and you were ready, like you were saying, well, I would probably want to be over here and I could be ready, you know, no matter if that deer came down and it came on on that side toward the camera like that, I could just follow that right around, no problem, and you could just position for your shot.
One thing real quick, some people have asked, and you might have seen it before, you know, some of the guys, like Ernie does a real good job from Tethered. You know, if you're a right-handed shot and you want to turn, instead of doing the drop shot by turning and spinning like that, you can come up under your bridge and put it across your shoulder and stand on your platform like it's a tree stand. That puts you real close to the tree, and that gets me completely out of the way, and Nate can kind of pick and choose his spot. So your bow's over here, so I pick it up, I come up under with my release hand, and the tree is leaning, so it's not super fluid, but I can now use my platform just like a tree stand. I can lean into the tether a little bit, but now I can use the platform like a tree stand. I don't know, just some things to play with. You definitely want to do many dry runs of this. This was just day one for us. It actually went pretty well, actually.
Yeah, it did. But I'm glad we did it today in the daylight, not opening morning in the dark. Yeah. We definitely ironed out a few bugs.
Yeah, we ironed a few bugs. We did that last year. We did one dry run, about 20 yards that way, and it went all right. But I feel that this actually works way better. The mobility is obviously a huge factor, but the fluidity of the situation compared to someone who's stuck on a tree stand platform, because you can shift your whole body out of the way to follow the camera instead of having to fish the camera in between you and the tree.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was filming from a hang-on tree stand last year while Nate was hunting from the saddle, there was no way that we could shoot and film 360 degrees and out of the hang-on stand. It just wasn't going to happen. I mean, you have to, you know, if your back's to the tree, then that camera arm has to wrap around the film man, and I don't know, but we weren't anywhere close to 360 on that.
No.
Well, guys, I hope this information was helpful to you, especially if you're trying to figure out how to film your own hunts out of a saddle. If you have any questions about how to do it, about my equipment, anything like that, be sure to leave a comment down below. Or if you have a better way to do it or a better suggestion, then go ahead and leave those down in the comments as well. Until next time, I hope you remember to get off YouTube and get outdoors into God's great creation.